Walters is the place to be before and after games at Nationals Park. Be sure to check out their self-poured beer wall that includes options such as the Vienna Lager.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Here's the pitch. Breaking ball hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Yastrzemski looking up. It is gone. Goodbye. A laser beam of a home run off the bat of James Wood. Cleared the 14-foot 8-inch wall. Hit off the wall in the front of the stands of section 237. Bang! Zoom goes James Wood with his 13th home run of the year. A two-run shot. And it's the Nationals 2 and the Giants nothing. And the big crowd beginning the rhythmic applause. Irvin's coming set now. Yastrzemski leads from first. Ramos digs in the pitch, breaking ball, swing and a miss. He struck him out with a curveball. Jake Irvin with strikeout number 7 matches his career high. 8 scoreless innings over the San Francisco Giants. A standing ovation here for the crowd of just under 37,000. Lopez ready, kicks the 0-1, swung on, hit in the air to shallow right field. Daylen Lile coming in, still coming, dives. He made the catch. He made the catch. A diving catch by Lile, and a curling W's in the books. Daylen Lile with a spectacular game-ending diving catch in his second game in the big leagues.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We, on Saturday at Nationals Park, had a game straight out of the 1940s, a game that lasted just 1 hour and 52 minutes. I could have swore I saw men in the stands wearing suits and hats and smoking cigarettes, and women in the stands wearing dresses. Anyway, we on Saturday also had a Nationals win, a shutout win, as the Nats, off a shutout loss to the San Francisco Giants on Friday evening, responded with a shutout win over the Giants on Saturday. 3-0, the final, to improve to 24-28 in MLB's 2025 regular season, 7-2 since the 7-game losing streak. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You could reach him at 202-486-3535. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the program, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. And we always appreciate the support very much. So for the Nats on Saturday, starting pitcher Jake Irvin, 8 scoreless innings. Reliever Jorge Lopez and not closer Kyle Finnegan got the save. James Wood serving as the Nats DH, hit a 2-run homer. Right fielder Daylen Lile, in just his second Major League regular season game, had a single and a game-ending diving catch. Mark, I tell you, the Nats packed a lot of good stuff into the mere 1 hour and 52 minutes.
There was a lot of good stuff, Alan. First of all, I don't believe they wore City Connect uniforms back then in the 1940s. So, slight difference from that. But the time of game certainly was appropriate for a game from a bygone era. You couldn't draw this one up much better than this. I mean, Jake Irvin was absolutely spectacular and efficient, and was this close to getting a chance to coming back out for the 9th inning. It didn't quite get there. You had the early offense with just a fantastic home run from James Wood, turning on an inside pitch. Yes, he does have the ability to do that and still hit the ball really hard. You had good defense, as you outlined, a good job by the fill-in closer for the day. A good time was had by all, and everybody made it home in plenty of time for dinner. You can't draw that up any better on a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
No, you can't. That really was something. I mean, less than 2 hours, the pitch clock is a beautiful thing. And Jake Irvin's work in this game was a beautiful thing. We know that Mackenzie Gore is the Nationals' #1 starting pitcher right now, but Jake Irvin pretty clearly is #2, at least as things are going this season. Obviously, we'll see how things are when Josiah Gray eventually is healthy, but Irvin in this game, absolutely masterful. I mean, cannot say enough good things about the work that he did. 8 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He threw a ton of strikes, 96 pitches, 64 strikes, just 32 balls, committed a fielding error in the top of the 4th. Okay. But man, one of the best outings by any National starting pitcher so far this season.
And think about 2 weeks ago. We're talking about what's wrong with Jake Irvin. He's not striking anybody out. It was 3 total strikeouts in a 3-start span. And we saw the velocity was down. And we're like, what's going on here with this guy? Is there anything to be worried about? Well, they fixed the glitch and figured out the mechanics, got him better. The fastball velocity was up in this game. And what I really liked was he was both getting the swings and misses. He had 7 strikeouts, but also getting quick outs when he wasn't getting the strikeouts. There was a stretch there where the Giants made 4 outs on 5 pitches, and it was late in the game. And that's what gave him the chance to potentially go all the way through to the finish line. So that's a nice combination to have. When you get to 2 strikes, you can put the hitter away. But if you don't get there, you can get a very quick ground ball, pop-up, weak contact, whatever it is, to get out. That's a perfect combination that allowed him just to cruise through this game against, as we've said, this is a good Giants team. That is a fantastic job by him to do that. And just nice to see him right the ship where all of a sudden those questions we may have had a week or 2 ago, you can put those aside for now. He looks like he is back in peak form.
It was very concerning to see the lack of strikeouts over those 3 starts. But back in effect is the strikeout for Jake Irvin over these last 2 starts. And here's something that might surprise some people. So Jake Irvin and Mackenzie Gore, each guy in this regular season has made 11 starts. The better ERA belongs to Irvin. The better whip belongs to Irvin. 3.42 ERA versus Gore's 3.47, 110 whip versus Gore's 125. Now, Gore is blowing away Irvin and just about everyone else in Major League Baseball in terms of strikeouts. So I don't know that you could say that Irvin has been better than Gore, but I tell you, the conversation is a bit closer than I think people realize. Jake Irvin, all of a sudden, is having a really good season.
And kind of reminiscent of his first half last year. Remember, he put on a late charge there in June and all of a sudden said, hang on a second, this guy might be an all-star. And he didn't get it. And I do wonder if that, just for a brief moment, that disappointment of that kind of set him down a negative path and he wound up having a rougher second half. But we've seen him at his best. When he's at his best, he is a very good major league pitcher who goes deep in games. He is a workhorse. He gets out. He didn't have to go up over 100 pitches in this game, but we know that he can do that because he has. And a guy who I think thinks of himself in a regard that maybe not everybody who watches does. He thinks of himself as a frontline big league pitcher, and it's to his credit that somebody who didn't come in all that highly touted and who probably is constantly viewed as something less than he believes that he is, has shown us on more than one occasion that he can be a true frontline starter in the big league. Now, he's got to keep it up over a whole season, of course. But I love to see the adjustments that he's made and the fact that just when it looked like maybe something might be wrong here, no, he figured it out. He's got it back on track and can string together some just outstanding starts, maybe even more consistently than Mackenzie Gore does in some ways.
And, we've talked about this before with Jake Irvin, but 4th round selection in the 2018 MLB draft out of the University of Oklahoma. When the Nats initially called him up to the majors, May 3rd, 2023, he was their number 20 prospect per MLB Pipeline. That they have gotten this kind of production out of Irvin over these last few seasons really is something. And that they appear to have someone who is, a nice, number 3, number 4 starter. Right now he's a number 2 starter, but, as time goes on, hopefully maybe he slots down a notch or 2. But whatever the case may be, this is a real organizational win, a 2018 4th round pick, a guy who at no point was ever a supremely well-regarded prospect who has turned into someone who it looks like can be a mainstay in the Nats rotation for years to come.
Well, and that's why I said, that the expectations and maybe on the outside, people have not viewed him as high, but I think he is starting to believe in himself that he is more than that. And maybe he ends up as a 3 or 4 starter on a good team. But you know what? Maybe he is more than that. Maybe he can be a number 2 starter, not just on a sub 500 team, but on a winning team. I get the sense that he wants to prove that he can be that guy. Always looking to improve any way that he can, able to make the adjustments, as we said, really embraces the idea of going as deep as possible into games. Boy, he desperately wanted to go back out for the 9th. In this one, he tried to plead his case to Davey Martinez in the dugout at the end of the 8th. And as Davey put it, this is a good line from him. Jake was a pretty good lawyer, but I'm a better judge. And in the end, it was the judge who had the final say.
He was a hell of a lawyer, I can tell you that. You know, he tried to go back out in the 9th, and I'm a better judge.
It's going to happen one of these days. If Irvin keeps this up and can keep that pitch count under 100, he's going to get the opportunity one of these days to go back out there for the 9th.
Well, and we know how Davey is, and I don't blame him for being this way. When you have a starting pitcher who has had a really good day, it's almost like you don't want to mess with that. 8 shutout innings, it's like that's a beautiful thing. Let him exit on the high note instead of risking anything going awry in the 9th inning. And it turns out that we had some intrigue in the 9th inning on Saturday as Jorge Lopez and not closer Kyle Finnegan was summoned to close out the game. Lopez did well, tossed a perfect top of the 9th, and we came to find out after the game that Finnegan right now is dealing with shoulder fatigue.
So you kind of know when you see Lopez warming up leading into the 9th of a 3-run game. Finnegan hadn't pitched in 2 days. You're thinking, okay, something out of the ordinary is going on here. And yeah, sure enough. He pitched both games of the Braves series, and then Friday goes to do his, regular afternoon throwing routine and see how he's doing. And he said he just felt fatigued, not injured, but just felt like it wasn't recovering the way that he would normally want to. And so he goes to Davey Martinez, Jim Hickey, and tells him, hey, I don't think I can go today. Not unusual for something like that to happen to anybody. You speak up when it happens. Say, all right, you're off tonight. Well, he felt it again on Saturday. And that's when you start to say, okay, maybe there's something more to be concerned with here. But I really do sense, based on everything they're saying, that this is being extremely cautious with something. They took imaging of it just to be sure. Nothing came back, according to Davey Martinez. Finnegan said he's not concerned. He said it's just not feeling as well as I should in order to pitch a game. And so he sat this one out. My guess would be they play Sunday and then they have Monday off before the West Coast trip starts. Unless they desperately needed him, I think they give him Sunday off as well, knowing that he'll also get Monday off, and then he's good to go potentially on Tuesday in Seattle. If it lingers past that, we've got a problem on our hands. But I think it's important to point this out. Kyle Finnegan has never once spent a day on the injured list in his major league career, which is now in its 6th season. Maybe you can say, well, he's due for something else to happen. But you know what else? I think it's also evidence of somebody who has been very good over the years at knowing when something is coming up and speaking it up at the time and not trying to fight through it and saying, let me take a couple days off now because I'll be all right in the long run, whereas trying to pitch through it could lead to actual problems. I'm going to give Kyle Finnegan the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think he, maybe more than anybody else they have on this current team, has earned the right to believe what he's saying about how he's feeling physically.
Well, this circumstance does make you appreciate his durability because it's a reminder that he is never hurt. You know, he has been this pillar of durability in the Nats bullpen for years now. And whatever you think about him as a pitcher, this bullpen cannot afford Kyle Finnegan to be injured. Let's make that crystal clear, okay? I mean, whatever improvements you may have seen from this Nats bullpen in recent days, like whatever, man, okay? Finnegan needs to be healthy for this thing to be, close to decent. So yeah, you do what you got to do to keep Finnegan healthy. And I guess the other takeaway from all this is, and this isn't a shocker, but Jorge Lopez is in fact the backup closer, right? Did we not learn that on Saturday with Davey Martinez going to Lopez with Finnegan unavailable?
For now, yes. Now, maybe if it's a different part of the Giants lineup with a bunch of lefties, maybe he goes Jose Ferrer for that spot. I mentioned the other night my bold prediction of Cole Henry. That's down the road. I don't think that would happen yet. Lopez has done it. Not a ton of experience, but it was his 32nd major league save. And we know that, especially when it comes to something like that, pitching the 9th inning of a close game, that Davey is almost always going to side with experience over youth. Could that change over the course of the season? Yeah, I think it absolutely could. But right now, yes, Jorge Lopez would be the backup closer, especially against right-handed hitters.
Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with? Or maybe your firm is employing people like Jurickson Profar while your competitor firms are using torpedo bats and smoking the competition. If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job. Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
Life as a small business owner, everything is your problem and there aren't enough hours in the day. That's where LinkedIn Jobs, and by proxy Nats Chat, are here to help. For those crucial hires that you absolutely can't whiff on, turn to LinkedIn Jobs. Simply post your job and LinkedIn will take it from there, making sure it gets in front of the properly qualified candidates who are searching themselves. Find out why more than 2.5 million small business owners have turned to LinkedIn Jobs to grow their staff. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your jobs for free. linkedin.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
Beck's 1-0 to Hassel. Swinging a dribbler toward the first base side of the mound. Garcia breaks for the plate. Beck has only one play, and that's the throw to first. Hassel is out, but Garcia slides head first into home plate with the Nationals' insurance run. Hassel picks up his first big league RBI, hitting a little dribbler to the right side of the mound. Nationals 3, Giants nothing. Lile at second base. Weak contact gives Hassel a good result.
So the Nats offense in this 3-0 win over the Giants at Nationals Park on Saturday really was not all that good, but certainly was good enough. 3 runs, 8 hits, no walks, just 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position. The 8 hits, a home run, a double, and 6 singles. We got a James Wood home run. You know, I said to myself earlier in the day on Saturday, it's been a few days since James Wood homered. He's probably due to homer. And sure enough, he homered in this game. Wood as the Nats starting designated hitter and number 3 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer. He had a Nats 2-run first, had a 1-out, 2-run home run to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. So a few things here. Number 1, the return of early game offense for the Nats. That more often than not has been the case here during the stretch of 7 wins in 9 games. Number 2, James Wood, another home run. He now is at 13 for this regular season. He's tracking toward getting right around 40 over the 162. And then a third thing is James Wood and what he is doing as a DH so far here. Wood has been great overall. We get that. But Wood as a designated hitter, it feels like every time the guy is a DH, he homers. And I bring this up not to advocate for him being the full-time DH. He's too young and too athletic to be put in that spot. But it is something that when he DHs, whether it's coincidence or whether it's because he can focus solely on batting, he hits extremely well.
It's 7 homers now in 11 games as a DH. That's pretty striking. Now, maybe it's coincidence, like you said, but maybe it's not. There could be something more to it. He did say he's starting to develop a routine. He understands now what you do to keep yourself sharp, what you do in between the at-bats when you're not out there in the field, and clearly the results have shown that he can handle it. But I'm with you, and I do think Davey Martinez is with you as well, which is to say this guy is not a full-time DH at age 22. He is their left fielder. They will use opportunities when they have them to DH him. But in terms of making that his primary position, the hope would be is that he is many years away from even having to consider that. But it's nice to know that even at a young age, he has kind of learned what to do because not everyone's good at it. Remember we talked about a few years ago, Joey Meneses really struggled with that idea of being a DH. He felt like he needed to be more involved playing at first base, and the stats would show that he did better offensively when he was also playing in the field. So good for James Wood for kind of figuring out, okay, on the days that I'm not out there, what do I do to stay sharp and still put together the kind of quality at bats that he is known for providing. And 11 games into it, he has absolutely shown that. And good to have that in his back pocket in case it does become more of a regular thing.
One thing I have thought about, though, is this. As we're in the midst now of the Nats trying to sort through this abundance of young, promising outfielders, could it be that we wind up with, say, a rotation of 4 of the outfielders where every so often one of them is designated hitting? So, out of James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Daylen Lile, Robert Hassel III, you could throw Jacob Young into the mix. Not that they all necessarily will be at the major league level at the same time, although, who knows? Let's see what happens. But that in order to get some of these guys playing time, in order to maybe get your best defensive alignments, maybe you see James Wood DH every few games, or you see, if Dylan Cruz gets going offensively, him DH every so often, or a Robert Hassel III DH every so often. I wonder if we might start to see more and more of that, especially as Josh Bell continues to struggle.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. There's still some steps along the way to get to that point. Number one, you need the young guys, Hassel and Lyle in particular, one of the two, to, show they're productive enough that they are going to be part of a starting rotation like that. And then you need health. You need Cruz to come back healthy. You need Young to come back healthy. But if that all happens, yes, I could see a scenario where they decide, let's keep 4 of them up here and use them all on a regular basis with one of them as a DH. And that probably means fewer at-bats for Josh Bell, which you get to a certain point by June, July, you may have to make that decision if he just does not finally get it going there. So I could see that. I do hope if it comes to that it's not always Wood as the DH. I hope they rotate that spot around, both because I think it's important for Wood to continue to play the field at this young age, but also it can be good for others to have those quote-unquote days off where you're still in the lineup but not playing the field. Give Dylan Cruz a day to do that. Give Robert Hassel or Daylen Lile a day to do that. Even if they are the superior defensive outfielder, it's okay to give them a chance to get off your feet and just focus on offense for one day. I would like to see that eventually become the case, and we'll see. As I said, we've got several weeks to go before we're really having that conversation, but it certainly crossed my mind as a possibility and a way to keep more than just the 3 young outfielders if and when everybody's healthy again.
And with Daylen Lile in this game number 2 for him at the major league level here, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 8 batter on Saturday, 1 for 3 with a single. So he has a single in each of his 2 games. And he ended the game with a spectacular play, a diving forward belly flop of a catch, essentially, in shallow right field on a flyout by Matt Chapman. So the save for Jorge Lopez sealed via really just an outstanding catch by Daylen Lile.
Yes, and let's be clear, the defensive tool is probably considered his weakest. Not that he's a bad defensive outfielder, but he's thought more of for his offense and his base running than anything. So that was really cool to see him do that. He also, the single was nice. Of course, it moved a runner up to third base and it set the stage for that insurance run. I was actually impressed with his first at bat of the day in the second inning. It's a line out to shortstop, but he's facing a lefty and hit the ball hard the other way. And it was a nice catch by the Giants shortstop to rob him of what probably deserved to be a hit. His first career hit the other night was to the other side like that. That says to me that he thinks in those terms and has the ability to hit the ball hard to the opposite field. And he probably deserved a second hit in this game, to be honest.
And he scores on an RBI ground out there by Robert Hassel III. So good to see that. I mean, again, not a ton of offense in this game. Keibert Ruiz as the Nats starting catcher and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with a couple of singles. But, otherwise, truth be told, this was the kind of offensive performance that so often has resulted in losses for the Nats in recent years. But because the pitching was so good, the offense was enough.
They needed everything they got from Jake Irvin in this game because you're right, there was not a whole lot offensively. And I'm a little surprised because, as we've discussed, it feels like when they get to a pitcher early, they keep it going and score more than, say, 2 runs. And they did not do that in this case against Kyle Harrison. A little bit of an unusual situation where Harrison was making his first start of the year. He's been a reliever, started the past 2 years. But with Justin Verlander now hurt, the Giants decided to put him in the rotation in the short term. But he was only good for 4 innings regardless. So maybe if they'd gotten another look at him a third time through, they might have had some more success. Instead, they get the right-hander out of the bullpen and really didn't do much against him. So maybe a little bit of extenuating circumstances in this one. But I was hoping to see more sustained offense, especially when they got off to that good start in the first inning.
So the Nats now 3-1 on what has become a 5-game homestand. So they have clinched a winning homestand and a homestand against two pretty good teams in the Atlanta Braves and the San Francisco Giants. And you combine that with the 3-game sweep at the Orioles last weekend. And, the Nats are doing some good things here right now. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things go with this trip out west. It'll be a 6-game trip, 3 games at Seattle, 3 games at Arizona. That'll happen following the off day on Memorial Day. But look, I know the record is not what people want. It's 24-28. We're about a third of the way into the regular season. It's not like the Nats are on track to have some great season, but that can change. And as you analyze things right now, it's hard to be too displeased with things. The starting pitching overall has been more good than bad. The offense is much improved from a home run hitting standpoint. The bullpen, which was wretched, has been better. It's not a strength at this point, but maybe you're seeing some positive signs. James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, we can throw him in the mix, all having good seasons. The team defense overall has not been good. If you look at the advanced metrics, the team defense, once again, is not good. Every year we talk about the defense maybe being finally good again. It's not the case. So there are nits to pick, but I think if you're a Nats fan, there's reason to be optimistic here.
I look at it this way. You flip 2 games at the bullpen blue, and they're a 500 team right now, right? They're 24-28. Flip 2 games, they're 26-26. And I think we're having a very different conversation right now. And even wondering to ourselves, boy, they're at 500. Maybe they could be better than that. I don't think they're far off from it. Do they have flaws? Yes, of course. They need to be more consistent offensively, for sure. They need better production from the back end of their rotation, and they certainly need to be better out of the bullpen, although the last couple of weeks, knock on wood, they've been plenty adequate in that regard. I think they're trending in the right direction. And as we've talked about so much during the rebuild, it's not just the results of what's happening, but who is doing it. If nothing else, you got to be supremely encouraged at the who, because it is almost universally the young building blocks who are leading the way. When this team wins, it's usually because of James Wood and C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore and Jake Irvin and Keibert Ruiz, and now a couple younger guys coming up, and Lile and Hassel. I mean, that's everything you could ask for. Yes, wins and losses mean more this year. You ultimately want to see them get to that 500 mark and maybe finally get over that hump after 5 long years trying to do that. But I'd rather be 2 games under 500 with the young stars looking like stars than be 2 games over 500 with short-term veterans being the contributors to it. So I like a lot of this. You'd love to see them go on a run that gets them over that hump finally, but I think step back, this has been much more encouraging than discouraging so far, 52 games in.
Well, I was thinking about this. Since we started the podcast in 2021, there has not been a surge in terms of wins for the Nats really since June of 2021. Like, the pockets of success have been, 4 wins in 5 games, 6 wins in 7 games. What we have right now, 7 wins in 9 games. Nice little cute pockets of success, but a surge, a manly adult surge in terms of victories in bulk. We have not had that since June 2021. This team needs that. And I think this team is capable of that. And I do wonder if we're about to see something like that. Maybe June 2025 ends up being like June 2021. Or maybe there is a stretch of, 15 wins in 20 games or something like that coming. Because that's what this team needs. Once this team gets that and gets above 500, then it's on in terms of being in postseason contention. But really, you do have to get beyond 500. And that's been a struggle for this team so far this season, getting to that 500 mark. To say nothing of getting beyond that 500 mark. Part of it is starting off 1-6, understand that. But that's what's needed here. Some sort of just push to get past 500. And then I feel like you're off and running at that point.
Yeah, you mentioned the 1-6 opening week. That was rough. And then also the 7-game losing streak they just had not that long ago. You just win a couple of those games. Even a 2-5 week doesn't bury you. And the 7-game losing streak really put them back in a tough spot where they needed to go 6-1 just to get back to now, 4 games under 500 or whatever it was. So yes, the surge would be great. But on top of that, you got to avoid those long slumps. Find a way to win 1 game in a series. Don't let yourself get swept no matter who the opponent is. And they're good enough to do that. They rarely, if ever, have a 3-game series where you don't like at least one of the pitching matchups in their favor. And often it's 2 out of the 3. So you get that. get a little more consistent offense. Get the bullpen to just be competent and not blow those games in spectacular fashion the way they did through, the first month plus of the year. I think they're on the precipice. I do. I understand fans who are so frustrated by it and say, look at the record. They're still under 500. Look at the lack of consistency. And there are games and nights when they still look like a true rebuilding team. But I think they're fewer and far between. And I think we've seen a lot more nights when you can really envision this being a successful team in large part because of the growing young core of top players they have.
Game 3 for the Nats against the Giants Sunday afternoon at 1:35. Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. Email the show. We always enjoy hearing from you. The email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat brought to us by 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
He's an out away from 7 shutout frames. Standing in his way, Lamont Wade Jr. Irvin rocks, kicks, deals. Swinging a fly ball, shallow center field. Moving on in is Hassel. He's calling for it. And Robert Hassel makes the catch. Jake Irvin has a 4-pitch, top of the 7th inning. He has tossed 7 shutout innings so far here this afternoon.
This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.